Hi, today I want to share with you some ideas that I have around the reduction of cognitive load for students through the use of signs. It's a presentation that I gave at a conference a couple of years ago, and I've written a blog about it as well, but I thought it was about time that I actually put it all into a decent quality video to share out there for anybody. I'm also showing the use of the Blue Yeti microphone, a much higher end microphone for recording these sorts of things. And hopefully you can get a sense of what's possible when you're using that sort of equipment. So here we go. I'd love to just share this with you. So this is my drive into work, and I actually recorded this video using Sam Animation Studio, and at the time that I was doing this drive, it was roadworks the whole way, and it was incredibly busy and incredibly slow, and I had a lot of time to think about what was going on. And one of the things that I realized as I was driving is that in order to get drivers to be sensible, we actually have signs everywhere, and there's a whole heap of signs. And the whole reason for those signs is to allow us to worry about driving and worry less about the thinking involved with making decisions. And here's an example of a fair few of the signs that are from that video. These are just screen captured straight from that video. And these signs, they're very simple. We as drivers, we know what they mean. They control our behavior. They control what we experience. They give us suggestions in the case of warnings. They give us direction. They tell us about opportunities. But all of them are designed to be taken in very, very quickly and allow us to make a decision based on that information and then keep moving. And I thought to myself, well, what if we did the same thing with students? What if we could reduce the students' cognitive load so they knew what they were doing and they knew what was expected of them? And my hypothesis was that they'd be then starting to learn a bit more. So what I did is I developed, using a lot of free clip art that was available on the web, I developed these signs. And these signs are designed as a negotiated signpost for the students. And I use them in OneNote notebooks, in PowerPoint slides, in Dino sessions, any digital sort of content that I use with the kids. And you can sort of see the range of things. So there's things like, I want you to use the stylus, or I want you to type. There's things like, don't use the web, really important. I want you to think for yourself, or do use the web. There's right answers and wrong answers. There's instructions like, I want you to save your work. I want you to make a new folder to put this in, or I'm going to send you a document, or I'm going to, I want you to send this document to me, and maybe I want you to email it. Or there's going to be a time limit on this task, or I will be timed. You will be timed. It's a performance thing, or it's for information. This is really important. I want your status. So using traffic lights. So is it good? Is it good is green, and it's okay is yellow, or is it not going well is red? There's a multiple choice quiz here for you to do. I want you to examine this. I want you to look at this. Here's a question for you. And now some process things. I want you to tabulate. I want to do a flow chart for this. Here's an idea for you. Graph this information. Calculate this. And my thoughts around these were, well, if we actually use these signs and the kids know what those signs mean, then maybe they could actually start working faster and start thinking more, and stop worrying so much about what they're actually doing. And here's an example of the sorts of things that you get as a result. So this slide, you can see, it's got 3 instructions up there, non-verbal instructions. I need you to tabulate some information. I want you to use your stylus, and I need a graph as a part of that. And I'm a science teacher, so you can see this is a science experiment. And as a result of that, the student knows that, yeah, I don't want a polished product. The teacher wants me to use the stylus. He wants me to hand draw what we're doing. But there's 2 expectations. I need to do a tabular form of my data and then graph that. And here's the result. And I think then we actually get a really good result. So from my experience, these actually do reduce the cognitive load for students. But then I started thinking a little bit more, because this sign was one that really got me one day on the way home from work. And I thought it was amazing. So motorway upgrade, follow the signs, ignore your GPS. And I wonder, with learning, should we be doing the same thing? That sometimes that we need to actually say to the kids, like, okay, you're about to learn something, so don't do what you're intuitively going to do. Maybe we can help the kids along that way. And then I also started thinking, well, what about the signs that are not signs, but we've got things like bikeways, which we have around here as green, and busways, which are red, and we know as drivers what they mean, and we know not to do things in those situations or to do things in those situations. And so I put together a hypothesis was, well, what happens when we're interacting with students digitally? Maybe sometimes we need to be clearer with our instructions. And so I came up with this color schema. I said, well, okay, the pink area, that's me. I'm going to write there. I promise I'm going to write there. So don't write there. We'll get confused. And then I made a gray space, which is, okay, well, that's for you. I want you to use that space. And I promise I'm not going to write there. And then I also make a blue space, which is, okay, well, this is a reflection. This is, we're going to, what have you learnt? What are you going to do next time? And you can see on here too, I've used the sign, which is, okay, I want you to use a stylus. So what happens when we use this sort of information? Well, here's an example. So you can see the blue writing is the student's writing and the black writing is my writing. And to start with, the student actually wrote in my space, but he was smart enough to use the select tool and move it. But notice as I write my exemplar writing, wrote our answer, he's actually adjusting and modifying his answer. And I think what's happening now is we're actually forcing the students, or I'm forcing this student, to actually think about what he's doing. But then the final step is actually then that last one. So why did he change his answer? And now he's articulated to himself and to me, because I've got a copy of this, that he knows that he needed to change his behavior. He knew what was wrong with his answer, and then he corrected his answer to match mine. And now he's been able to articulate that was. And that's truly metacognition. So there's my little idea about using signs to reduce cognitive load. If you want to know a little bit more about that, you can go to the web address and read more about it on my blog. There's a whole bunch more on my blog as well. You might be interested, you might not be. But thanks for taking the time to have a look.